Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. You recited a poem that belittled the Bears yesterday, Tony. How about one that celebrates their win last night?
I'm Tony Kornheiser. Roses are red, footballs are brown. The Bears would have lost if Brady remembered fourth down.
Yeah, well, he didn't. And he also threw wide and outside several times leading up to that. So he wasn't too much the golden boy last night, was he?
No, but going into the game, you thought the Bears were going to go down and go down hard.
I did. I'm glad they didn't. Okay. I'm glad Brady went down hard, and he's going down again when I get finished with him in a minute.
Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Astros are answering their critics. The Yankees and Rays go to Game 5, while the Heat hope for a Game 6. But we begin today, and this will make Wilbon happy, with an embarrassing moment for Tom Brady. With the Bucs down by 1 point to the Bears last night and less than 1 minute to play, Brady threw an incomplete pass 20 yards downfield. It was 4th and 6 at the time, but from Brady's reaction after the play, it seemed apparent he thought it was 3rd down. Wilbon, what is your reaction to Brady seemingly getting the downs wrong?
Tony, there are going to be people watching us who are going to think my reaction is extreme, so let me brace them right now. Tom Brady, for my money, if not the greatest football player of all time, certainly is, like many people think, the greatest quarterback of all time. And when I say the golden boy, I say it with a wink, but he's the golden boy. He's been that. And so for him to berate, scream at, belittle his teammates, on the verge perhaps of humiliating some of them during the game, and then to lose track of the down. The play itself, Tony, is relatively unimportant. Tom Brady doesn't need to win another game. He doesn't need another comeback. I mean, his reputation and his legacy, if you will, professional football legacy, is in concrete forever. But, Tony, to scream at teammates and then not own your own egregious mistake like that in the aftermath, Tony, it might not have been dishonorable, but it was less than honorable. And so it's a teaching moment for me, because I grabbed my son right then. We watched the whole thing. It's early out here in the West. And I said, hey, don't you ever do this as a young quarterback and as a point guard. Don't you ever do this. You own your mistakes. And I think of people like Cal Ripken and Bill Russell and Roger Federer, who I don't know like the other two. And I just can't imagine them doing that. Tom Brady should stand for something. He's not unassailable, which he seems to think he is.
Yeah, so my feeling is that these are fairly common mistakes that can happen to any quarterback.
Yes. Yes.
But you've got to say, I screwed up. You've got to say, yeah, that was my mistake. And I thought last night, what I saw of it, Bruce Arians tried to cover for him, but he was trying to cover for him very weakly. I mean, because he felt, and he said so today, he felt that everybody knew it was 4th down and Tom knew it was 4th down. To go back to the larger point here, you're right. It's all set in concrete. He's got 9 Super Bowl appearances. He's got 6 Super Bowl championships. I don't think anybody is ever going to get to that. And I'm not saying this is like Willie Mays stumbling at home plate, but it has a sense of foreshadowing. Mike, I see Brady this year, and he's a lot like last year. He has some really good throws and some bad throws. He had a great half last week. He has some very ordinary halves. I'm not sure I'm right when I said earlier that the transition to winning at Tampa is going to be as smooth as I thought it would be.
Yeah, Tony, and first of all, I agree with every word you just said. But I don't even care about the football. He can make mistakes. If Tom Brady goes 0 for his next 20, so what? But to just not stand for something, to not be accountable. I mean, I hope, and maybe I shouldn't expect, but I hope the great champions can stand for more than performance. And it's just, it really consumed me last night on a night I should have been happy that my Bears won and took down the previously thought of by me golden boy. But instead, I'm saddled with thinking about this and sort of being in anguish about it and angry about it. That Tom Brady would just dismissively act like, instead of saying, hey, fellas, I blew it, because then I would have admired him, because everybody blows it at some point, or at least almost everybody. I blew it. I lost track of the down, but he couldn't do it. Just disappointing. The Yankees are either going on or going home tonight. Jordan Montgomery pitched better than Tony thought he would as New York evened its series with Tampa to set up tonight's deciding and dramatic Game 5. The Yanks will pitch Garrett Cole on 3 days rest, while the Rays counter with Tyler Glasnow on 2 days rest. Yankees first baseman Luke Voigt says, quote, "We're going to win it," close quote. Tony, you with him?
So I will tell the people what happened earlier today at about 11 o'clock Eastern time and 8 o'clock in the morning your time. I called you, and we talked about this very game, and I said, and I'm quoting myself, I think accurately, you don't want to get in a one-game series with the Yankees because they can hit it out too often. They got 16 home runs in 6 playoff games, which nobody has ever done. Now, I want to see Gerrit Cole pitch because the guy he hated so much at UCLA, Trevor Bauer can go on 3 days rest and he can win on 3 days rest. Gerrit Cole has never done it.
We don't know.
We're going to see what he can do. But he is 3-0 with the Astros and the Yankees in playoff games against Tampa. He is 3-0. The other guy going on 2 days rest, all I can say is that's a 2-inning or 3-inning deal because, as Kevin Cash has said before, I got a stable full of guys who can go 98. So.
Now, Tony, let me pick it up from there because here's what interests me about this. So 2 or 3 inning stint. Suppose coming on just 2 days rest, you can't get 2 or 3 innings. Suppose in the first inning you get rocked. It seems to me, and Kevin Cash knows his personnel, I get that. But it seems to me, Tone, you're playing with fire against the lineup that you're talking about. And the reason I know that call happened this morning because you're thinking, my God, this guy can throw 6 pitches, 3 of them can go out, and that game can be over, a deciding game 5. And Tampa, I don't know what the BPI says, but this is at least a 50-50 affair. At least you think of that going in. But 2 days rest, Tony, it just seems to me it's unnecessarily risky.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think about this. I think how wild these series are because it's 5 games in 5 days. There's no days off. You know, so it really tests your pitching staff. And I thought, well, maybe the Yankees are built because of where they play for a bigger stage. But it's not a bigger stage. All the games are exactly the same. There are no fans. There's nothing to indicate that the Yankees are built for this. If I tilt towards the Yankees at all, it's just because I think in a one-game deal, it's just, I don't know that you can pitch to them and get away with everything, even though, as I've told you many times, Tampa is up 10-4 in the season series, and I think that's meaningful. I do. Let's stay with baseball.
Do you think that Cole, hold on, one quick question. Do you think that Cole can get more than 4 innings? Do you think he can get into the 6th, say, providing the Yankees with yet another advantage?
I think Cole can get into the 6th, and the Yankees bullpen 6, 7, 8, 9 is going to be fine if that happens. Let's stay with baseball. In fact, let's stay with American League Baseball, where guess who awaits the winner of Yankees-Rays? It's the disgraced Houston Astros, who cheated their way to the World Championship a few years back. They got 11 runs yesterday to eliminate Oakland, which had finished 7 games ahead of Houston in the regular season. Wilbon, have the Astros proven they're good regardless of the cheating?
Tony, that's like the age-old question. It worth about 20 years of examination, 30 years of examination. Like, how great would certain players have been, Barry Bonds, whether or not there was something performance-enhancing? So the Astros had a certain amount of greatness. Yes. They had that already, I thought, coming in. But, Tony, right up through last year when your Nationals took them out, I think this year, though, is a separate question. I don't think that just winning to this point proves anything. I think if you get to the American League Championship Series and how you perform in that, then I think you can look at that specifically as evidence to say, aha, they're not cheating now, or at least we don't think there's any way for them to cheat. They've proven themselves in the context of this year after the measures put in place. But I think you got to play this one out first.
So I'm going to make 2 points here. The first one, I'm going to pretend to be the Astros. If I'm the Astros, I want the Yankees, and then I want the Dodgers, because these were the 2 yappiest teams about the way we cheated. I want to beat them, and I want to tell them to shove it. That's point number 1. Point number 2 is this. The Astros got so lucky this year that there are no fans because they'd have been booed everywhere they went, every game they played, and that booing would never have left their ears, and they would have been haunted by that. So they caught an enormous break that they're playing in silent stadiums, and it's just their baseball now.
Tone, I agree with you, but what's interesting is they weren't any good anyway in the regular season. They finished 2 games under 500. So they weren't any good anyway. Now you wonder if with that booing, and not just booing, but I mean cat calls and profanity and all the things you hear in a professional stadium when people want to get on you. You wonder if they'd have just cratered. I mean, we'll never know, which is to your point. But, yeah, you know they want those two teams. And I tell you something else. Don't you think those two teams want the Astros? Because I do.
I think they do. I will say this. These are not the same Astros because they don't have Verlander and they don't have Cole, who were the two best pitchers in the American League last year. But the spine of that lineup, Correa and Bregman and Altuve and Springer, those hitters got them to 2 World Series in 3 years. And they're still there. The manager's gone. The GM is gone. They're still there. Let's take a break. But coming up, can the Heat stay alive in the NBA Finals, or will LeBron win the title tonight with a third team?
And the Dodgers are rolling, but can the Braves give them a series?
I would say this. I bet the Dodgers want Houston. I bet they want them.
I'm sure
they want to beat
them.
them.
Absolutely.
Welcome back to Pardon the Interruption, presented by Samuel Adams, part of Happy Hour.
The attic gives me a higher vantage point from which to see the future. I sense the first call.
Hey, Tony and Mike, do you see the Heat staying alive tonight?
This is very cloudy for me, and I'm going to tell you why. You know that I always pick LeBron. I always ride with LeBron. 3 times in LeBron's career, he's had the opportunity to win an NBA championship, 1 game for it. 3 times he has won it. I think they're better than the Heat. At least the top 2 guys are better than the Heat, and Dragic is still out. What gives me pause, Mike, is that in Game 4, LeBron texted all his teammates must win. I don't think he can say that again in Game 5. That's why I think Miami has a pretty good chance. I will pick the Lakers, but without my usual confidence.
Well, Tony, that's an interesting thing. I think LeBron will find a way to sort of motivate, to prod those teammates. I think he'll find that however it is. But let me just say this. I think Miami's going to win tonight. I think there's going to be a game on Sunday. They're going to extend the series. And it's not just about Jimmy Butler having an otherworldly game, because you can't do that. People don't do that twice in a lifetime. So don't ask him to do it twice in a series. Butler, Crowder, Hero, Robinson, Bam, everybody, they all have to play, Tony. This is not an all-time Lakers team, all right? This is not Magic and Kareem and Worthy and Byron Scott.
It's 2 guys.
It's not Shaq and Kobe and Fox and Ori and D. Fish. It's not one of those teams. So I think the Lakers will win this series, but not tonight.
Next call.
Hey, Mike and Tony. Thanks for taking my call. Any chance you guys see the Braves giving the Dodgers a series?
Look, the Dodgers are the best team in baseball, but the Braves are very, very good. They hadn't won a series and moved on since 2001. They've lost 9 straight series. They have a lot of confidence. Mike, they played the minimum 5 games. They've given up a total of 5 runs. That's all. 5 runs. Their team ERA is 0.92, and their run differential is 19. I am not saying they're going to win, but I am saying that Ozuna and Acuna Jr. and Freeman, they're real good. They'll give the Dodgers a series.
Tony, they do. But look, you know me. I'm always pushing away, crazy numbers, and these stats that don't mean jack usually. Here's what does mean something, at least to me, all right? 0.92, all right? That ERA, we keep talking about it every day. People are hitting them out. The Yankees have these weeks where they just swat them out. When you are pitching to the tune, your staff is 0.92, you're going to be in a series with anybody, including the 27 Yankees. If you believe in that staff, I believe in that staff to give the Dodgers a series. I'm not picking Atlanta because the Dodgers can pitch too, but I think this will be a series.
The Dodgers handled the Padres confidently. They dispatched them, but the Braves are good. The phone lines are closed, really. But in our future, I see us discussing the latest changes to the NFL schedule.
And is Rafa Nadal a lock for his 13th French Open title? 13.
A lock? A lock?
13.
Against Djokovic, a lock?
He's
I don't
a
think
lock.
you would say a lock.
I'm saying a lock.
Yeah?
Rafa,
Really?
lock. And he's not going to forget what set it is.
Happy time, people. Happy 27th birthday, George Kittle. The 49ers tight end came back from injuries last Sunday night and caught 15 passes for 183 yards and a touchdown against Philadelphia. It's Kittle or Travis Kelce for the best tight end in the league. Apparently, the 49ers agree as they just signed Kittle to a 5-year, $75 million contract the richest extension ever for a tight end. Kittle was a fifth-round pick out of Iowa in 2017. Somebody on the 49ers staff clearly knew something because Kittle set the record for most receiving yards for a tight end, 1,377 in 2018, the first of his 2 Pro Bowl years. He was first-team All-Pro last season when he led the 49ers in catches with 85 and in receiving yards with 1,053 despite missing 2 games. Kittle is also regarded as a top-blocking tight end. On a side note, Kittle's offseason workout partner is Robert Tonyan, Green Bay's tight end with a man bun, who already has 5 touchdowns for the Packers.
Well, Kittle's present is he's going to get his preferred battery mate, Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy G is going to be back out there, Tony, after missing 2 games, and that can only help the 49ers in a major way.
Happy anniversary, Andrew Luck. On this day 10 years ago, USC defensive back Sharice Wright was scooping up and attempting to return a recovered Stanford fumble when Luck laid him out with possibly the hardest tackle ever seen from a quarterback. The violence of Luck's collision caused Wright to fumble. At 6'4" and 240, Luck was a deceptively athletic tank who made a habit out of extending plays by absorbing hits in the pocket. Luck was the #1 overall pick in the draft and led Indianapolis to an 11-5 record in each of his 3 first seasons, making the Pro Bowl each time. In 2014, he threw for 4,761 yards and a league-high 40 touchdowns, taking the Colts to the AFC Championship game. But then injuries began to mount up. There was a lacerated kidney, and then a concussion, and then shoulder surgery. Luck was named Comeback Player of the Year in 2018 after throwing for 4,593 yards and 39 touchdowns. Ironically, after winning that comeback award, Luck chose to never come back and retired at the age of 29.
Tony, you get the feeling that Luck, if he wasn't playing quarterback, could have played several positions on a football field, including linebacker. There are plenty of Hall of Fame linebackers who weren't as tall as 6'4" and not as heavy as 240. Luck is just a great athlete, going back to the day when, even though he's still young, when kids played multiple sports and excelled at them all, and I'm sure Luck was one of them.
A melancholy trails to Whitey Ford. Edward Charles Ford, the crafty little left-hander, the greatest pitcher in Yankee history, died today at 91. He was the oldest living former player in the Hall of Fame. Whitey Ford, a native New Yorker, played on 11 pennant winners and 6 world champions. He won 236 games, the most of any Yankee, and his winning percentage of .690 is the best in the 20th century and beyond among pitchers who won 200 or more games. In 1961, when he was 25-4, he won the Cy Young. His lifetime ERA was .275. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1974 with his best friend and teammate, Mickey Mantle. When asked about their particular chemistry, Mantle said, quote, "We both liked scotch." Like DiMaggio, Mantle, and Rizzuto, Ford spent his entire career with the Yankees, who retired his number 16. In retirement, he acknowledged that he sometimes doctored his pitches with saliva, baby oil, turpentine, and rosin. He used a ring to cut the ball and make his pitches break dramatically. Ford was a great pitcher and clearly a master craftsman. His World Series records of 33 2/3 consecutive scoreless innings, 10 victories, and 94 strikeouts still stand. At Whitey Ford Day in Yankee Stadium in 2000, he said, and I quote, "I've been a Yankee for 53 years, and I'll be a Yankee forever."
Tony, closer to home, but still in the industry, baseball also lost an executive, Jimmy Lee Solomon, who was at the root of so many important initiatives in baseball, like the program RBI, which really helped bring baseball back to big city kids. He was only 64. He was a very good friend, and he championed people who shouldn't have needed it, and I just wish that someone had championed him. Because if you talk to people around baseball, so many of them will tell you he had the stuff, the talent, the guile, everything necessary to be perhaps the commissioner of baseball. I guess he had to be born maybe 20 years later at least.
Well, the former commissioner of baseball was his dear friend, right, Bud Selig?
Yes.
They were dear friends.
People
right?
in the industry loved and respected him, Tony, and this comes as a little bit of shock. He was a Washingtonian for a lot of his life, lived not too far from you, and I got to know him and just respected him. And if there were big baseball issues, he was the person I wanted to run things past to see if my thinking was on the track it should be.
Let's go to the big finish. The NFL moved the Broncos-Patriots to Monday and the Bills-Titans to Tuesday. Is that all right with you?
Tony, it's jarring to see these things because football has a certain rhythm. Sunday and maybe Monday. Yes, but in this case now, it is all right. It's more than that. Rafael Nadal and Novak Djokovic are going to square off in the French final. Who you got?
I got Nadal because it's on clay, but I wouldn't bet a lot of money on this one. The Capitals signed former Rangers goalie Henrik Lundqvist to a one-year deal. Do you like that?
Tony, he's 38 coming off a career worst save percentage. I don't know. Former Capitals goalie Braden Holtby, by the way, signed with the Canucks. Alabama, number 2, at Ole Miss tomorrow. Saban Kiffin, are you intrigued?
Yeah, I'm very intrigued. Saban always beats his former assistants. Last one, number 14, Tennessee at number 3, Georgia tomorrow. Who you got?
Tony, I'm going to have a better mentality and spirit about college football and try to get into it for the first time fully tomorrow, including that game.
Out of time, trying to do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
And I'm Mike Wilbon. Have a great weekend, knuckleheads. You can get the PTI podcast on the app or Apple Podcasts.
Good night, Canada. Now you got Holtby.
PTI.